So my name is Lynn, and I've been with RMLS since 2005, and Remine is really a fun third-party website and app that you have access to, and it's really fun to teach. So thank you so much for joining me, and I see I have a few more people coming in, so welcome. Let me get you checked off here. Okay, so Remine, if you're wondering what is Remine, it is, again, a website and an app, and it was initially developed on the East Coast. There was a very successful broker who came up with basically a process where he went to lots of different websites, county websites, all kinds of public record websites, and would figure out which homes to target to try to get the listing. And on any given day, he would have like 200 active listings. He was very successful. And so people around him said, why don't you make a website and make this available to other brokers? And that's kind of how Remine was born. And so to get to Remine, the easiest way to get there is in RMLS Web. Under the toolkit, under third-party links, you will find the link to Remine. Okay, and I've actually already clicked on it and I have it open. Okay, so Remine, a lot of people call it Remind with a D, but it's Remine. Think of it as real estate mining. Okay, that is what Remine does best. It's the farming tool piece of it, I think, is exceptional, above and beyond the other websites that you have access to. So, but let's start a little bit navigating around Remine before we kind of dig in on how to use it. Okay, so when you first get into Remine, what I would advise is going way down to the bottom left, and it will have your name when you have logged into Remine. And I would recommend going down, clicking on your name, and clicking on Settings. Okay, so there are other aspects of Remine, and one of those aspects that we'll visit briefly today as well is you can invite clients to Remine. I'll show you what that looks like, and they can do a kind of a free credit score option if they want to do that in here. So if you think you might want to interact with your clients in Remine, you definitely want to come and visit your contact preferences for Remine to communicate with you, your display preferences. You know, if you want your license to show, there is an edit button at the top right in the edit section. So the social profile, what you'll want to do is go in and put probably some combination of your name. Could be your full first and last name run together. Mine is my first initial L and my last name Salmonson. So you'll check availability. It is going to be a permanent link that you basically will have your own little custom website that you can invite clients to join you, and some basic interaction. It's not a deep level of interaction, but you can message back and forth and see favorites that they have marked if they have joined you in Remine. You also have HomeSnap, which has a similar feature, which for that piece of it, I think a lot of people think that one is easier to use and for clients to use, but feel free, again, I'll show you where you can invite them later. You can add your logo, and on your website, you can pick a background image. You can edit to have a welcome message on your website saying, you know, thank you for joining me in Remine. You can add social media, again, edit in the upper right-hand corner. Okay, so you might just want to come in, visit settings in here. If you think at any point you may want to interact with clients in Remine, but definitely come in and capture that URL, because once yours is taken, nobody else can have it. So I think at least that piece you want to definitely do. Okay, and then in Remine, basically these little tabs on the left side of the screen are how you're going to navigate through Remine. Daily, little cup of coffee, and if you load the Remine app on your phone, these icons will be identical. So the daily cup of coffee, they set it up so you can set up any cards that you would like to see, property notifications of properties that I've looked at previously if anything has changed. You can put the Market Pulse card up here so you can see for our entire coverage area, or you can specify for a specific zip code if you want to see how busy certain zip codes are. You can specify time frame. I have property notifications twice for some reason. I have Market Pulse twice, so it'll let you put them in more than one time. Saved searches, again, listing updates, Twitter. So again, if you want to just come in and visit the cup of coffee, it's a quick overview. But here is kind of where the fun begins, and it is the search piece of Remine. Okay, so search when you initially pull it up. So Remine is a national database, so public records all across the country. With our version of Remine Pro that we have, you can see all public records. Depending on where you have the map at any given moment, it's going to tell you in the upper right a count of results based on zoom level, search criteria, and all of those things as we navigate around. And then up at the top, you're going to see a little search bar. Okay, and notice here it says nationwide search if you check that little box. And so you can search for places. Again, this is one of the websites my mom calls my stalker website because you can search for people. Again, you can search for tax ID, MLS number, agent's office. Okay, we're going to leave it on places for today, and we're going to just stay in our area. So I'm going to just leave that alone. And then you're going to notice at the top left above the map, so listings. So if I'm looking for active or various statuses of listings that are in RMLS Web. If I switch that again to properties, it's going to be all public records, and we will visit that in a little bit. And filter, you're going to see your option to pin these different filters up to my little search bar up here if I want to, or I can just click on price, for example, minimum and maximum, and add criteria if I want to do that at any given moment. Okay, and then also on the left side, before we start searching, there is a saved search. So if you save searches, you can get back to them there. We'll talk about carts, how you can add properties to shopping carts. Again, engage with your clients, chat with your clients, and engage is also where you can see if they've marked properties as favorites or shared properties, and contacts. Okay, and then also as we start to dig in a little bit, I'm going to visit one more tab here on the left at the bottom, support. If you go to their support center, I have that open already, you will find lots of training information. So they do have training webinars, they have recorded videos broken into, smaller pieces. So if there's something you want to dig into a little bit more, feel free. Also, we're going to talk about something called cell score in a little bit. So you could type the words cell score up here and search, and you'll find there's a document that's going to talk about cell score that we will visit momentarily. Okay, so right now 1.8 million records. Holy cow. So let's zoom in a little bit. So again, you can put in an address, city, zip code, neighborhood, whatever you'd like. I'm going to just put in a zip code, 97232, and as their system starts to recognize what you're typing, again, if it's an address or a city or any of those things, you're going to see a list to choose from below. And when you make your selection, it's going to take you to that area of interest. Okay, and right now we have it on properties. Okay, and when it's on, when we have it on properties, notice you get this extra little drop down, lots of different options now on the map on the left-hand side. When we're on the listing tab, that goes away. Okay, so properties opens up this little additional filter. And so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here so So let's find a little area of interest here. Let's go up and I'm going to draw a polygon. Okay, so let's say this little neighborhood right here is my little neighborhood of interest. So I'm going to draw a nice little polygon. Oop. And if I can't get it to finish, they've given me a finish button up there because you know how sometimes those little polygons don't want to stop. All right, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so I want to zoom in to get it to this level where you can start to see the little blue dots, which are property tax records. Okay, because we're on properties. And so let's say this is a neighborhood I know fairly well, but I want to see what do these filters do for me? What if I'm in an area that I'm not as familiar with, kind of as a starting point to get more familiar with this neighborhood? So property value. So you can actually click on these little filters and just have them just appear on the map and start to get an idea of the property value in a particular area. Okay, if you check boxes, or you can put in your own minimum and maximum, as you check boxes, if you click apply, it will drop off any of those blue dots that are not currently selected. Okay, so I will do that, but then I'm going to take this back away. But let me show you what that does. So apply takes that 130 records down to 43 based on that property value. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the X to get rid of that. So get our properties back. And you do have clear all filters up here on the top right as well. Ownership time, oh wait, home equity, sorry. So we had property value, we have equity. Again, equity is not a perfect science. As we know, some people overpay their mortgage. Some people perhaps have missed a few payments recently. It's just assuming that the basic monthly mortgage payment is being made when it's looking at equity. Okay, ownership time, how long have these people lived in these homes? Okay, sell score. Okay, so some are going to be marked low, some medium, and some high. So that help document I was referring to tells me that high means the property is more likely to sell within 6 months to 1 year than other surrounding properties. Medium would be the property is about as likely to sell within 6 months to 1 year as surrounding properties, and low means the property is less likely to sell within 6 months to a year. So again, it's in that training document has more detail how they make that calculation. And some properties in this particular area, they're not marked, so there may not be quite enough information for their computer program to make that determination. Absentee, one thing about absentee, if you see corporate or absentee, there are times where if a property is moved into a trust, like my particular property where I live shows it as corporate owned. When I moved it into a trust. So that is also not an exact science, but I have had people wanting to use the absentee option to try to do mailing, postcard mailings to potential renters, thinking that those absentee properties might have renters in them, trying to find some first-time home buyers. So people will use that filter sometimes in that way. You do have flood zone risk. Again, it's interesting, the same neighborhood, some are high, some are low. Again, not a perfect science. Building type. So again, maybe, you know, this is an area you're trying to get to know better. So what types of buildings are in this neighborhood? Land use in that particular area. Mortgage rate. Okay, there are still quite a few in some neighborhoods that are 4.5 and up on interest rate. So it's kind of an interesting thing to look at. Mortgage age. And look how many have no mortgage when I check that box here. That's incredible. last sale price. You can see again whether the last sold price could have been 2 years ago, could have been 10 years ago, but it gives you again an idea. If there are any distressed deals in that area, and if there were cash buyers. I'm always amazed how many cash buyers there have been. That's one that you just turn on and turn off. Okay, so let's say for my scenario, I want to do a postcard mailing to this area, but I want to target some specific people, some specific homeowners. So I'm going to start with my thought process for my scenario today is I want to look for people who have no mortgage. Okay, so mortgage age, they have no mortgage. So I'm going to, again, right now I have 131. I'm going to click apply. And it's going to drop that number, wow, to 96. That's amazing. Wow. Okay, and then, so no mortgage. But then I'm also going to apply ownership time, 20 plus years. And that takes me to 27. Okay, and then maybe property value. Let's see. Okay, so 500,000 or more. So my thought process, I'm going to apply that layer. It's going to take me to 3. Okay, so my postcard mailing, I'm targeting these people thinking maybe they might be getting ready to downsize. And in this current market, it's a great time to list a nice property because we know there are not a lot of listings right now. Inventory is really low. Days on market is getting smaller and smaller. It's a great time to sell. So I'm going to reach out. So I've narrowed this from 131 properties down to 3 based on my filters that I have added. Okay. Again, I just mentioned the going after the rental scenario for people, maybe again trying to get them to buy their first house. I hear all kinds of creative stories how people use this data. Okay, so these 3 properties are showing over here on the right, and notice when I hover over the list of properties here on the right hand side, notice the little marker on the map gets highlighted. So when I'm on this first one, this little property down on Irving gets a little bubble around it. When I hover over the second one, there's another little bubble around that property, and the third one. Okay. Also, if you click on the little blue dot on the map, it'll also slide to that property and put a little border around the one that you're looking at that moment. Okay, and we'll go in and we'll look at a property a little bit later, but I have 3 right now. So to do a postcard mailing, basically we're going to select all. So at the top left above my list of properties, when I click select all, it's checking each little box at the top right for each property. Okay, and up at the top is the word cart. So my little shopping cart, I'm going to put these 3 properties into a shopping cart together. So I'm going to click on cart. And it's going to pop up and it's going to ask me to either add them to an existing cart. I have a drop-down list of existing carts, or I can type a new cart name. So this will be my September 2021 cart. Okay, and then add properties to cart. Okay, and up at the top right, it's telling me success, 3 properties added to September 21, 2021. Okay, it's just about done. Okay, so now I'm going to go visit my little tab that says carts. And in carts, in Remind, you can have up to 10,000 properties in your carts. And so you can have as many carts as you need, but it'll max out at 10,000 properties in your carts. But it automatically now has taken me to the cart I just created. And here are the 3 properties. Okay, and you do have the option to manage columns. And so if there are other pieces of information you'd prefer to see, you have a little bit of flexibility moving those columns around if you'd like to see other fields. And so if I'm going to do postcards, I'm going to, again, check the box at the top or individually check whichever properties I want to include when I run my labels. So one option you have up here next to 3 properties, you will see export. So one option you have is you can export this information to Excel and do whatever you'd like to do. Do a mail merge, you know, pulling their names in and greeting them by name on the postcard. Do your own thing if you're comfortable doing that. I'd say maybe 10% of people are really comfortable with that. The rest of us, not so much. So they have also given you, I'm going to come back to send mailers in a moment, where it says ... more. They've actually made it really easy for you to print your own mailing labels. You'll click print mailing labels. Again, you get to choose if you want it to have the property owner name or current resident, the property address or the mailing address, so again, depending on who you're targeting, and then you have the most common label sizes available to choose from. And when you print labels, it's going to print them, and I will share this screen with you. So it's going to take them into a PDF for you. And now all you need to do is put your little labels in your printer, print these out, and slap them on your mailer and get them off in the mail. Okay, so you don't even need to know how to do a mail merge. It's that easy. Okay, let me go back to Chrome and close that. Okay, your other option that I'm coming back to here is send mailers. So I'm going to click on send mailers and name your campaign. Build mailing campaign. Okay, and it's taking you over to the Remine site. They have a relationship with a printing company, and so you can see based on your quantity and the size of product that you choose, it's going to give you a price, and that includes postage, and there's no minimum order. And so you can go through, choose a design, personalize it. You can go in and play with that without paying for anything. You only would need to pay if you decide to actually order and get them mailed, but you can go in and kind of play with that. So it makes you look really professional. And again, a lot of people say that not having a minimum order isn't common in that type of business. So a lot of people think that's a pretty good deal. Okay, so I'm coming back to my cart. Make sure you can see that. Okay. All right, so and in your carts, let's say, here's my new cart from February 2020. I don't need this cart anymore. I already did my mailing campaign. So if you want to get rid of a cart, if you click on the little drop-down arrow after the name of your cart up at the top, you can delete it. But here's the nice thing. They make you type the word delete, and then you have to click delete. So they make you think about it. So, you know, sometimes we delete things by mistake. So they added in that extra step. So you have to really acknowledge that you are deleting them. Carts, very helpful for staying organized. Okay, I'm going to go back up to search. Okay, and I'm going to, let me take off one of those filters here. So, okay, and I'm just going to find one that is not currently active. Okay, so the MLS ID number on this property starts with an 11. So this was it was an active listing basically 10 years ago in 2011. Okay, so currently off market. Okay, so if you're looking at an off market property, you'll see little shortcuts over here on the right where you can click to specific sections, or as you keep scrolling down, it will take you to all of these sections. Okay, so again, last time it was on the market, who had the listing, who listed it and who brought the buyer, sold information, public record, tax records. Again, if I want to see more, I can see more. Assessed value, market value, property history, so what has happened with this property in the past. Again, stalker website, like I said. Mortgage history, schools. Valuation, so it's showing you a combination of valuation resources. These are ones that your clients may come across anyway, so if you end up generating a report for them, you may just let them see these because they're going to find them through public searches anyway. Okay, you do have the option also to put in your own opinion, like if this is an area you know really well and you go, oh no, that should be 600,000. But you can't do that like 20 times a day to modify the value of a property. I believe it's quarterly that you can put in a valuation opinion on a specific property. Demographics, so census information, kind of a little look at that area. And then at the bottom, owners and associated people. So it's basically adults who have received mail at this property. So it could be an owner, it could be tenants, it could be adult children. Sometimes there's quite a bit of contact information, phone numbers, email addresses. This particular one doesn't have any information, but there are times you'll be able to click on it and see their contact information. Okay, so let's come back up here, close that out. Okay, and let's click on listing. And let's look at an active listing. So when it's an active listing, you can see all of that same information, but the contact information, the current owner, you won't be able to see. You're just seeing past contact information. So this is an active listing, 25 days on market. Okay, so let's say we went through this property. We took our client through this active listing, and we see the current price is $429,900. And they're thinking about writing an offer, but they're like, are you sure this is a good price for this property? And of course, you could do a CMA in RMLS Web. You can do a CMA in RPR, Realtors Property Resource. HomeSnap has a really quick CMA, and Remine also has a pretty quick CMA. So here it says create CMA for this property. Okay, so I'm going to jot down, so 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 1618 square footage, year built 1910, and 429.9. I'm just writing that down for reference. So create CMA, and you have two options. The Remine CMA 360 is the one we're going to use. If your company or you pay for Cloud CMA, that's another CMA service, but again, it does cost additional money. It's outside of Remine, but you can pass over to Cloud CMA if you have access to it. So I'm going to click on Remine, and we're going to go through their process. So the first thing is property information. So this house that I am doing the CMA for has 3 bedrooms. So I'm going to try exactly 3 bedrooms, 3 to 3. We'll see how that goes. This property that my clients are interested in has 1 bathroom, but I'm guessing there are probably going to be some that have 1 full and 1 partial maybe 2. So I'm just going to do a minimum of 1 full bath. Square footage is optional, but this property has 1,618, so maybe I'll do 1,200 to 2,100. Year built was 1910. So let's see, in this area, let's go to 1925. Okay, and you kind of pick and choose anything else you'd like to enter. Probably single family, so I'm not getting any condos or attached common wall properties. And here's another really nice thing with Remine is you can search closed on MLS, so those listings that were in our MLS web, but you can also search closed off MLS. So for sale by owners in particular, once they are closed and their data gets pulled in, we can use that as a comp. So that's helpful. And the sold time frame, it's defaulting to 6 months. You can change that time frame if you want to. Distance, it starts at 1/4 mile. We can start with that and see what happens when we click search. Okay, it's kind of what I thought. So edit criteria up at the top above the map. And I think I'm going to do 2 to 3 bedroom. And I'm going to go out, a mile and see what happens. Okay, now I'm getting 11. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to take it back to 1/2 mile. Okay, so I'm getting 2 closed that were on RMLS, so from RMLS Web, and actually here I'm getting 5 that were not in RMLS Web. So again, some areas when you're able to search for closed off MLS, that's going to be really helpful. Okay, so let's see, this one has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, 1 million. Ooh. So again, as I hover over the properties on the list, you're going to see the map move so I can see the number of that property, and you're going to see on the map the little marker. So here where I'm hovering over 15, you'll see over this little number 15, it's kind of wiggling and it's got a little marker that's kind of coming out from that property. Okay, and then if I wanted to, I could click on this one that was over 1 million. You can take a look individually at these properties, you know, and get a little more information if you need it. Okay, and I'm pretty sure when I'm comparing that sold price to all the others that I have on my list, there's something about that one that made it so much more. So I'm going to remove that one because all these others are kind of in the same general ballpark. Okay, and again, if this was a real CMA, I would spend more time looking at them individually. But for today, we're just going to take the ones that we have and click on Save and Continue. And then they have color schemes available. So they have the Remine colors. And then they also have some of the large brokerage companies. They have some of those logo colors available. And if you don't see yours there, I believe your principal broker can reach out to Remine and see about getting it added, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so I'll just leave it on Remine colors for today. And again, I have my picture already loaded in my settings, and then I'm just letting it use the Remine logo. If you pick one of those color schemes with the brokerage options, you'll see the brokerage that goes with the colors appear on the right. And then you can add your name of your client, Betty Boop. And again, prepared by, it has my name, or I could change that to my real name. But we'll just leave it on training. And then it's going to show you, so it's a pretty quick CMA, minimal effort. And not lot of flexibility now as far as moving things around. It kind of is what it is, but you can kind of see the range based on the comps that you picked, the list range, the average list price, and then the sold price range for those same properties and average sold price. So you can kind of see where those are falling. Days on market, again, demographics. When you go to print this report, it will print to a PDF, and you will have the option to include these valuations or not. You'll have the choice each time. And then again, a list of my comps that I picked. Okay, and then up at the top right is the print button. And you name the file. Do you want images or not? And here, do you want to include those valuations or not? And then print. And it should print fairly quickly. And then I'm going to come over to Adobe. Okay, so very quickly here, I now have a CMA. It is 4 pages long. And cover page, again, subject property. Okay, so you, and again, the app, you can do all of this same stuff on the app as well. And let me go back to Chrome and close. Okay, and then this property also, when I created a CMA, it did put this property into a cart automatically, a CMA cart as well. Okay, so let me go back to search again. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of show you if you want to save a search. So let's just, I have it on listing. So let's do, okay, status active, price range, 250 to 600. Wait, I need one more zero. There we go. At least 3 bedroom. Okay, so you have some basic criteria, and we're going to draw a shape. Ah, there, I finished that one. Yay. Okay, so you can save the search and give it a name. Very original. And you can, if you want to, set up auto email out of Remine to someone if you've put them into Remine as a contact. So again, I have myself in as a fake contact. Oop. Oh my goodness, why is it? Oh, okay. I'm in there more than once, but it can be once a day, ASAP. So if any new listings matching that criteria come up, they will get an email once a week. Or I guess if you're not setting them up on auto email, you don't have to say never, but you could say never. And send me an email also if you want to copy yourself. Okay, so you do have that option. Okay, and as I said, the saved searches tab, that used to be kind of hidden, and I'm so glad they brought it out and gave it its own tab. It was kind of hard to find before. So you can see the saved searches that you have set up. If they're set up on auto email for a particular client, you can edit that here. Again, send me an email also, copy yourself or not, change that. There is a delete button as well. Okay, so we visited carts already. I think people are pretty comfortable just from shopping on the internet in general. Carts are pretty easy. So as far as engaging with your contacts, so contacts is probably where you would want to initially go if you want to invite a friend or two or a relative or two to kind of interact with you just to try out Remind if you want to test it before you decide if you want to use it with other clients or not. So you can add a contact individually or upload contacts, pull them in from Outlook, places like that. And then you do have the option to invite to step 1. I'll click on that and show you. Oh wait, I'm going to just invite myself. Let me just invite me. Okay, so do you want to invite one of your contacts to Remind? So if you say yes, it's going to send an invitation that they will then accept your invitation. And then in Engage, you will be able to see any properties they've marked as favorites, any properties they have shared. So if they've shared something with friends or family out of Remind, you'll be able to see those properties. If they have created their own saved searches, you'll be able to see the names of those searches. You can't see specifically the map that they've drawn, but you can see the names of the searches, types of property. And so I'm going to click over and show you I'm not a licensed broker. I'm just a trainer, but I want you to see, so if you have, and you'll see at the top left, remind.com/re/L.Salmonson/home. So that URL that I talked about in settings in Remind where you claim, and again, some combination of your name makes sense because they will be able to see that as part of your name if you choose to use that feature. And again, I had loaded my picture. I have that background text. I typed in settings, whatever I wanted to show to welcome them. And then again, if they accept my invitation, they'll create their own little login to get in, and then they can search around in Remind for properties. And so one thing on Remind, when you see the coral color on the page, that's how you know you're in basically it's up the public side of Remind, but again, your client has to be invited by you. Clients don't just necessarily stumble across Remind, so you need to invite them. And then when you're in Remind on the broker side, everything is in blue. Okay, so coral is more the public facing side, the blue is how you know you're in the broker side. Okay. This client actually did favorite, this is like a $2 million house. This is a $2 million house. This is like a $3 million house. This is a great client. And then properties, again, that client shared out of my Remind site. And again, searches that they have created, again, just the name they gave it, basic search criteria, and how often they set up to get notified about any new matches. Okay, and then also, when you invite to step 1, yeah, so when you're in on your Engage part and you invite to step 1, it says invite them and again, offer that free credit report. So they will get a credit score back. You will not see their credit score, but you'll get a message that tells you if they scored low, medium, or high on their credit score. So you'll get an idea of how they did. Okay, and then chat. So chat is where you can, down at the bottom, write a message. Here is another message. Are you still looking for a house? For a bigger house. whatever, and then send. Okay, so again, they can message back and forth through Remine. Again, HomeSnap does that as well, and like I said, for the client, that might be easier with HomeSnap. So if you haven't taken the HomeSnap webinar, you might take that and see what that looks like as well. Okay, it's just interesting because I did have more contacts in here. It's crazy. Okay, and then from your contacts in here, you can export. So if you end up with 100 contacts in here and you want to export to Excel and do something else with those contacts, do again mailing labels or whatever, greeting cards, that sort of thing. You can also manage columns in here for your contacts. So if there are, again, other pieces of information that you want to see, just like you could do for the properties in carts, you can do that for your contacts. Okay, and then alerts down here, if so if I downloaded labels, your contacts will receive invites shortly. So it's just updating me on, you know, anything I've done in the site, if it's working on it. Okay, and then back up here to docs. So they have, Remine has a piece that's their little document center, and I know you guys in your offices all have ways, you know, DocuSign and all those different companies that you use to get digital signatures and that sort of thing. There are times though where I've talked to brokers and like that website that you're usually using is down and you urgently need to get a digital signature on a document. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? This might be something just to keep in the back of your mind because they do have a guided tour that'll kind of walk you through the basics, but you can pull in PDFs and set them up to get signatures and send them off. So it does have that piece as well. So I just want to point that out. And then again, like I said at the beginning, that support option, that support center, definitely where you're going to want to go. And, you know, again, if there's some piece of this that you want to learn a little bit more about, their how-to videos are short and sweet. And like there's docs and signing sequence if you're interested in that. So definitely take advantage of that. Okay, and as I said at the beginning, real estate mining, I showed you really what I think it does best when we were applying all of those filters to the properties, trying to drill down and, you know, find out who to, you know, where to go and try to get a listing. Okay, and then I wanted to show you right here at the end one more way to get to Remine. If you do a search, okay, for whatever reason I was searching in Stevenson for somebody. If you do a search in RMLS Web and you click on a property, an MLS number, if you scroll down to the bottom, there is also a link to Remine at the bottom of an Agent Full in our site, which again, I think the only reason you might want to go to a property that way into Remine, one is to see the valuation information and then to see the demographics sometimes might be interesting. A few things that you don't see in RMLS Web, right? Because most of that other stuff you can already see. And you do also get an idea, percent equity, net equity that a person potentially has in that property, the property that's listed. You know, so sometimes there might be a little extra information you can see here that you won't see in RMLS Web. Okay, so again, stalking website, hours of fun, looking up your friends and neighbors and relatives and, you know, your whole little neighborhood and everything. Are there any questions for me at the end? Is there anything you would like me to go over, revisit, or do you just want to go kind of play with this tool? It's Again, the app is, like I said, uses the same icons, same basic process as the website. Bye, guys.